Hello students, welcome back to another online lecture of the online lecture series initiated by Shet Vidya Mandir Junior College of Science and Commerce, Vasai. I am Mrs. Nehal Falkau. Students, today we are going to study chapter 4.2 from section 4 of your English course book. As I have told you earlier, your English course book is a revised one with the addition of a new genre of literature, which is novel. In my previous videos, we have already studied how the novel as a genre originated, grew, and till date remains the most dominant literary genre. We have also studied the different elements of a novel and also the types of novel. Today, we are going to study a novel named To Sir with Love. Let us learn more about the author. The novel To Sir with Love is written by E R Braithwaite. Eustace Edward Ricardo Braithwaite, also known as E R Braithwaite, was a Guyanese-born British-American novelist, writer, teacher, and diplomat. He is best known for his short stories of social conditions and racial discrimination against black people. He was the author of the famous 1959 autobiographical novel To Sir with Love. He also wrote A Kind of Homecoming, which is about his tour of Africa. A Choice of Straws, which is a novel set in London, and Reluctant Neighbours, which is a memoir, that is, an account of one's personal experiences. It is also a treatise, means a formal piece of writing, which is about racism. Racism is any discrimination against individuals done on the basis of their skin color or racial or ethnic origin. Braithwaite's numerous writings primarily deal with the difficulties of being an educated black man, a black social worker, a black teacher, and simply a human being who found himself in a set of inhumane circumstances. To Sir with Love is an autobiographical novel. An autobiographical novel is a novel based on the life of the author. However, the author can change the names of places and characters, or even may change or avoid certain details of his life. Such a novel may or may not be in the first person narration. The narrator of this novel, who is a protagonist, that is, the main character of the novel, is an engineer. But to make both the ends meet, that is, to earn enough money to live on, he accepts the job of a teacher in a rough London East End school. The school is full of troublemaker students, that is, students who are very naughty and mischievous, and who were rejected from other schools for their bad behavior. At the beginning, the narrator is ridiculed, that is, made fun of by the students, and also bullied, that is, frightened or threatened or harassed by the students. But later, his calm demeanor, that is, his calm behavior, and also his desire to see them succeed, gradually earns him their respect. Let us understand certain key terms that are important to understand this novel. Firstly, let us study a little background before we proceed to studying the summary of the novel. In my earlier video lesson on the history of novel, we have already discussed the key elements of a novel, one of which is the setting. Setting is the background in which the story takes place. There are several aspects of the setting, which include place, period, time, climate or weather, or the lifestyle. In the novel To Sir with Love, time and place are very important. Place is Great Britain in England, and time is the mid-1940s when racism was prevalent in Great Britain. You will come across various terms in the novel, the meaning of which you need to know before we begin. Terms such as racism, colonialism, and prejudice. What is racism or racial discrimination? Racism is any discrimination against individuals done on the basis of their skin color or racial or ethnic origin. Individuals can discriminate by refusing to do business with, socialize with, or share resources with people of a certain group. What is colonialism? Colonialism is exploitation of a weaker country by a stronger one. Example, ruling over the weaker country or using the weaker country's resources, and so on. Example, India was colonized by the Britishers for many years. What is prejudice? Prejudice is a preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. In simpler words, prejudice is to have a baseless opinion about a certain group or groups of people without even getting to know if what you believe about them is true or not. In the autobiographical novel To Sir with Love, the author, who is the narrator, Braithwaite, speaks of his personal experience of racism and the difficulties he faces of being a black man in an English country. In England, the black people were ill-treated by the whites. The whites denied black people jobs, proper housing, respect, and socializing with the whites. There were also some criminal cases where the whites ill-treated the black people. So this is what you need to know before we begin to reading the summary of the novel. Now, let us look at the summary of the novel To Sir with Love. To Sir with Love is a work of fiction based on the life of the author E R Braithwaite. The main character, E R Braithwaite, works as an engineer in an oil refinery. He served in the Royal British Air Force during the war. After the war, being a black person, he was unable to find employment. As a last resort, that is, as a last option, he applied in a school to become a school teacher. Surprisingly, he is accepted as a teacher at the Greenslade school in London's East End and is set to teach the senior classes of the school. While reading the novel, we have to understand that the time period in which the story takes place is very important. Braithwaite finds that even though he considers himself British and has served in the Royal Air Force, the English do not consider him to be one of them. This leads Braithwaite to feel bitter about the Englishmen and colonialism, as well as about his white students. Colonialism is the exploitation of the weaker country by a stronger one. Braithwaite's teaching position starts out roughly, and he is embarrassed time and again by his students. He finds that the students belong to a background that is not suitable for learning and for the overall development and progress. He finds his students to be disrespectful, ill mannered, and mischievous, while his students find him to be an arrogant outsider who is unfamiliar with the social environment in which they have grown up. The students harass him from day one, slamming their desks during his lecture, bullying him to a great extent, and also using foul language, that is, inappropriate and unpleasant language. Even the girl students do not spare a moment to harass Braithwaite. Once, in a reaction to such an incident, Braithwaite verbally scolds the girls for acting in an unladylike manner, that is, not behaving modestly like girls should behave, and also for being unruly in the class. Unruly means noisy and lacking discipline. Braithwaite realizes and understands that his outburst, that is, getting angry and scolding the students, has not gained him any respect and cooperation from his students. So, he decides to change his teaching methods and his tactics for handling the students. He decides to interact with them as though they are adults and respectable persons instead of just treating them like kids. He decides that from now on every girl should be referred to as Miss and his students should call him Sir. At first, the students find that this level of deference, that is, courtesy and respectfulness, is totally unnecessary and ridiculous, means funny. However, they come around after only a few weeks, completely changing both their hygiene and their attitudes towards one another. This sentence means that within a few weeks, the students become used to this kind of politeness and they develop habits of maintaining proper hygiene and friendly attitude. This marks the success of Braithwaite in handling the students in a very amicable, that is, in a very friendly and cordial manner. To increase the class cultural exposure, he takes them out on various field trips and excursions to museums and theatres. A white female teacher named Gillian Blanchard accompanies Braithwaite and his students on these excursions. This marks the beginning of a friendship between Gillian and Braithwaite. Similarly, Braithwaite's relationship with his students is tested many a times. Although his students frequently disappoint him and hurt him, he learns to forgive them. The students constantly surprise him by showing their maturity, empathy, and knowledge. Another facet of the story, that is, another distinct feature or element of the story which greatly affects its narrative, that is, the storyline, lies in the heavy history of colonialism and its dark consequences and the mental and the physical trauma that increases Braithwaite's hatred and wrath, that is, his anger and resentment for the British. He constantly feels the prejudicial effects of colonialism while living in England after World War II. And these negative experiences frequently shape his thoughts and actions. That is, these negative experiences of prejudice affect Braithwaite's way of thinking and the way he acts and behaves in the novel. Braithwaite is surprised and shocked by the conditions in which his students live and also the physical trauma of the war that can be seen throughout his teaching environment. This was the summary of the novel. Let us now take a look at the themes of the novel. If you remember, theme is also a key element of the novel. There are major themes of the novel, which include student-teacher relationship, prejudice, and racism. These are the three major themes of the novel. Let us now look at the first theme, which is students-teacher relationship. E R Braithwaite gets a job of a teacher in a rather rough and notorious school. He finds that the students belong to a background that is not suitable for learning and their overall development and progress. He notices that the students are in no mood to change their attitude and behavior. Braithwaite, with his novel that is new and creative ideas, innovative techniques, and understanding the students' psychology, ultimately wins their heart in no time. Though he was bullied, harassed, mentally and physically tortured many times, he did not lose his patience and continued implementing his novel ideas and techniques that helped him to bring a significant change in the lives of his students. The next two themes, prejudice and racism, play an important part in the novel. The racism prevalent, that is, existing in Great Britain during the mid-1940s, the time period during which To Serve with Love takes place, is of primary significance in the novel. The narrator cites or refers to repeated incidents in which he experiences racism of the white Britons, that is, people living in Great Britain. He refers to incidents like his encounters on the bus, at job interviews, at Greenslade School, when searching for housing, at a restaurant with his girlfriend, and so on. At the outset, that is, in the beginning, Braithwaite is struck, that is, affected by the unexpectedness of such prejudice. This sentence means that he does not expect people to have any kind of prejudice against him, and when they do, he feels extremely hurt by their behavior and actions. He was brought up in British Guiana and he viewed himself as a British citizen, not as a black British citizen in a British colony. When he served Great Britain in the Royal Air Force, that gave him respect and esteem in the society. The day he left the job, he finds himself to be an outsider because people start treating him like an outsider who is not one of them. Braithwaite's extensive experience and education was of no use in job interviews, where he was informed that the job has already been filled or he is overqualified for it. This is done because nobody wants to hire him simply because he is a black citizen. This heightens or increases Braithwaite's sense of betrayal for the British. Interestingly, he never lashes out or attacks anyone physically. Only rarely he does express his anger towards them verbally. He exhibits patient endurance at times. That is, he controls his anger and resentment and he tolerates everything silently. But at certain times, he describes the way the rage, that is, intense anger inside him, is transforming into hatred so strong that he desires to hurt those who treat him unfairly. As a result of such experiences, Braithwaite finds the students at his school to be a bit notorious and rough in their behavior. But he believes that with proper care and treatment, all the students would surely achieve success and desired goals in their lives. Students, today in this video, we looked at the summary and the themes of the novel To Serve with Love. As you all know, a novel is a big fat book with a lot of chapters. In your standard 12 syllabus, the study of the entire novel is not prescribed. So, in your English course book, only chapter number 17 of this novel is given. We shall study chapter 17 of the novel To Serve with Love in my next video. Thank you.